What's going on, guys? It's Sero here, and I would like to make a video on the definitive guide to improving. So it would be everything that you would want to know about the game and how to improve and everything you need to know. So this act, I hit Immortal 3, and I went from last act to Gold 1. So I thought I would share some tips, tricks, and overall game sense on how to improve. So the first thing I would like to show is my settings. So here is all my settings. I'm gonna scroll through it. You could pause the video. Here's my crosshair. It's just a green dot. If you need the settings for it. For video settings, I just have everything on low or off, except for multi-thread rendering. I have that set to on. And yeah. So the next thing I would like to talk about is sensitivity and on how to find the perfect sensitivity for you. So many people have trouble finding a good sensitivity and they keep changing it very often, and I don't think that is a good idea, because if you keep changing your sensitivity in game, your muscles won't get used to the sensitivity, and you won't be as good as aiming as if you stick to one sensitivity. So what I recommend is starting at a relatively normal sensitivity, like maybe 0.5 or 0.4, depending on how much room you have for your mouse. So and then you could just put on the practice and try tracking some targets and seeing what feels good for you. You should try with different guns, maybe jumping, and once you find a sense that feels comfortable and you have enough room to turn around right away, and maybe then you should stick to it and get better with it. Also, I'd like to mention scope sensitivity. So this is for snipers. If you scope in how much your mouse moves according to your sensitivity, and if you have this set to 1, you'll have to move your mouse the same amount as your normal sensitivity for non-ADS. So if this is set to 1, it's easy to turn around with it as well. If you have it really low, you won't be able to really flick around with the snipers, and you might run out of mouse pad or something like that. So a lot of people wonder about setups and if setups are important, like your mouse, your keyboard. And personally, I think that it doesn't really matter that much. Obviously, if you have a 60 hertz monitor, you're at a little bit of a disadvantage compared to somebody who has a 240 hertz. But I think you could overall improve no matter what your setup is, and it's about the mindset instead of your peripherals. So for mechanics, I would like to start off with a aiming routine and what I do to warm up. So the first thing I do is probably hop into the range, and if you press F3 on your keyboard, you could bring up a menu. And I like starting off with medium bots. And if you could get a Vandal or Phantom and just practice flicking to them. Maybe move around, practice your movement at the same time, and do this until you feel you're warmed up. Usually I stop right around when I hit around 30, but for every person is different, and just do it until you feel warmed up. Also, if you play certain characters like Jet, you could turn on this thing called Eliminate 100 and use your knives, and you could dash around and practice your aim on targets. That's also really good, and I recommend it. Also, I would like to mention about aim trainers. There's Aim Labs, Kovacs, and a lot of aim trainers out there. And I don't think it's completely necessary to use third-party aim trainers. But if you feel like it's beneficial to you, I think it's worth it. And I have used a lot of Kovacs in the past, and it has helped me. So I would recommend that you at least try it out. Also, a lot of people wonder about recoil control and exactly how to practice recoil control and what it is and stuff like that. So basically, if I shoot at a wall, if I don't move my mouse, there's, as you can see, that it just goes like up and like left and right. And every gun has its own spray pattern. So basically what that means is that it starts off the same. And as you can see with the Phantom I'm using, it's like kind of like a 7. If I change, like, let's say to a Spectre, it's gonna have a different spray pattern, like it's smaller. Like if I get a Vandal, it's gonna look like this. If I get a Phantom, it's gonna be a little bit different. So to practice this, you basically want to do the opposite of what the recoil is, where the recoil is going. So right here, the recoil goes up. As you can see, the recoil goes up to the right and then to the left. So you want to do the opposite. You want to go down, left, and then right. And if you practice this, it should be more in a confined area, so you could control your spray better. So as you can see, your bullets go in one spot rather than like this all over the place. And you could practice this just by doing the opposite of the spray. So you could practice this with this target over here in the practice range. So yeah, you could spray at this and try to get into a more confined area. Okay, so the next thing I would like to talk about is crosshair placement and why it's so important and how many people still don't fully understand all the in and outs of crosshair placement and they're still doing it wrong. So a lot of people know, obviously, crosshair placement, you don't want to keep your crosshair to the ground like this. You don't want to walk around looking at the ground and you just want to keep it like head level. So you don't have to move your mouse as much if there's an enemy there. But it not only is it vertically crosshair placement, it's also horizontally. So if you walk around like this, your crosshair is technically at head level, but you aren't like pre-aiming spots that you should be. What's better is if you know that, let's say an enemy is coming out of B main, you like this, sure, like this is like fine, you're vertically, but like horizontally, this doesn't make much sense. You want to keep your crosshair where they're about to come out. So based on your reaction time, you want to keep it how far away from the wall. So I think like this is generally good because they're going to run. But if you expect them to maybe walk or jiggle you, then just keep it closer to the wall. And for attackers, what I think is probably what you should do is you first want to like kind of hug the angle. Like, because there could be anybody, a person could be standing right here, could be standing right here. Like you want to, there's many like off angles. So you want to slowly clear them with like your crosshair. And then once you come to a spot where it's like basically like a very common angle, I'd say. Like this is a common angle. You want to keep your crosshair in the same spot and you only want to use your movement keys. So here I would just press A and my crosshair is on his head. I don't have to move my mouse at all. It's not like, it requires basically no aiming. It just press A, I could shoot at him and he's dead. So you want to do that to pre-aim common angles and spots. So I could you do this kind of, but if there's really no common angles, you just want to kind of wrap your crosshair around the corner. You don't want to keep it in the wall because that doesn't make any sense. You want to keep it around the corner so you could clear every angle that there's in between. So the next thing I would like to talk about is crouching and when you should crouch, because I feel like a lot of people either don't crouch at all or they crouch too much and they crouch in every fight. So basically when you want to crouch is when there's only one enemy and you're committed to the fight. If you know there's only one person there, let's say it's a 1v1, and you want to fight him, you could just shoot and crouch. And if you crouch, it'll be easier to obviously spray at him than if you're not crouched, because it will be like easier to control your recoil. But if you know that there's or there could be multiple people, then crouching isn't good, because if you crouch, you really can't get out of the situation. You're really immobile. So let's say there's one person here and like one person here and like one person here. If you crouch into the open like this, you are basically dead. Like there's not much you could do. If let's say there's one person crouches over here and you have 3 teammates like shooting at him, it's basically a free kill. Like he's crouched and he can't really run away. In that situation, crouching is bad. But if it's like a isolated 1v1, then crouching could be very beneficial to help you win the fight. So the next topic that I would like to cover is Counter-Strafing. And a lot of players in the lower tiers don't really know what Counter-Strafing is, and they don't really understand it and they don't use it. Counter-strafing is basically that if you're going around a corner, let's say here I'm holding A. I'm not moving my mouse at all. I'm just pressing A and then D. That's what counter-strafing basically is. It's you are pressing the opposite movement key to go back into cover or yeah. So here I could hold A and then press D, and as I'm running back, I could shoot my gun and it's accurate. If I'm just running out, my gun isn't going to be accurate. But if I hit the opposite movement key, it's going to be a pretty accurate shot. And this is usually good if you don't want to commit to an angle. Like over here, like holding this is not the best spot because a lot of people could kill you. But if you just counter strafe back into cover, like with a jiggle peek, then you should be able to get a kill or not expose yourself to a lot of people. And the best guns with counter strafing, I would say, are by far pistols, because with pistols, I feel like you should always be counter strafing. Because if you're standing still with a pistol, it's like really easy to kill you. And I'd say like with the sheriff and stuff, you should be always counter strafing, because if you practice it, you should be really accurate even while you're moving. As you can see, I'm strafing, but since I shoot when I hit the opposite movement key, my shots are going in one area, opposed to me just full running and my bullets are going all over the place. Okay, so another thing that I really notice in lower lobbies is that people never look away from flashes. And I don't really know why, like if they forget or if it's just they don't know about it. But to really, like, it's a simple concept, but a lot of people still don't do it because I don't think they like have it like in their muscle memory to look away from a flash. So to practice this, what you could do is go hop in the range and you could choose like Phoenix or something or another flash agent, and you could try it, literally just flash yourself and then look away from the flash so you don't get blinded. And if you do this for like 5 minutes a day, you like after like a week, you'll automatically have their you'll look away from flashes right away. And people say that it really depends on your monitor and your sensitivity, but it's not that fast that I think any person could react to it, no matter what monitor you're on or what your sensitivity is. As long as you have the mousepad room to turn around, I think any person could look away from a flash, and you should definitely practice this. So the next thing I would like to cover is the types of peeking. So there is like a jiggle peek, which is fast and you're not exposed to yourself. It's also like people could call it a shoulder peek, like you just peek with your shoulder and then you just shoot at them. You're not too exposed to anybody. Then there's a crouch peek, which is a very committed peek and you can't really back away from a crouch. And usually when you crouch peek, you spray. Then there's also like a peek for information, which is basically like a jiggle peek or a jump jiggle peek, where you could like look for an area and then jump right back into cover so you don't get like exposed much. You could like do it like this, you could turn around quickly, or you could jump to the side, or you could even just with your knife out, you could look at a corner like this and get information. So this one's really good for getting information. You literally have like no chance of dying, and I'd say like this is the best way to counter ops. Like you just jump like this, and the person, if they have an operator, they have to hold really tight, but nobody really aims like this. They just usually wait for you to peek like wide. So they wouldn't react in time and they would probably miss the shot. Okay, so when you are on attack, you want to clear angles one by one, and this is basically like angle isolation. You don't want to run into the open like this and just be exposed to everything, because you could get shots from here, you could get shot from here, you could get shot from here, 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 here. You get shot from a lot of places. So what you want to do is you want to, with the help of your team and abilities, you want to try to clear angles one by one. Like you could clear showers, then you could clear heaven, clear boxes, trucks, and clear triple, and clear pockets, and you could like move up. You could smoke this and maybe flash to get certain angles, but you should never run into the open. Like I just see way too many people just do this in lower ranks. Like this isn't not only bad crosshair placement, but they're just way too exposed. They're not isolated to one angle at a time. You really want to think about your positioning, and that you're only one person can shoot you at a time. You're not exposed to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all these angles. So also it is worth mentioning that if you're really close to a wall like this, you are more exposed than if you're farther away from a wall. If I'm this distance from a wall, I could actually see all the way over here, and the opponent could see my shoulder if he's standing there. But if I'm over here, I can't see him at all, and he could still see my shoulder. So if I'm really close to a wall, he will actually see me before I see him. So you don't want to hug walls like this. You want to stay as far away from walls as you possibly can. And this concept is really good when clearing an angle that has two possible like spots where you have to look left and right. When you're clearing the left, you want to hug the right wall and be as far away from the left wall as possible. Clear this, and then you want to do the opposite. You want to hug the back wall and clear this angle. So you just want to be basically hugging the back wall. So for ability use, how to use your abilities, it definitely depends. Like it obviously depends on your agent. But to get better at ability use, I think you should definitely watch other pro players use the agents you want to use. So in this case, like Jets, like some things you could do at Jet, like in this situation, you could smoke this and dash, and you could peek back sights, then you could peek this, you could drop and clear angles one by one. Like that's just a very specific ability use for Jet, but I think to get better at ability use, you definitely should watch pros. And to get better at Jets, I watched Wardell, Huynh, and like a little bit of Tens and some other pros. So also rotations are, I feel like people aren't rotating the proper way in lower ranks, and they are leaving a lot of map control for the enemy. Let's say that you guys are attackers, and if you only 5-man rush sites, let's say you rush 5-man A, somebody in hookah, if they peek out of here, they could quickly see that there's nobody here. So they already gained map control, and they could either choose to flank, or they could maybe sit over here, wait for you to possibly rotate. So you don't want to just give up free map control for no reason. If you have like a raise, you could Roomba this every round, or you could just spread out and play for picks. Like you don't want to give up showers, you don't want to give up hookah. You just want to basically have control of the entire map as much as you can. And once you get a kill in a specific spot, you have a lot of options. You could either commit to the site, or you could rotate to the other site. And it's a lot better than just constantly 5-man rushing every site, because if you can't 5-man rush every site, you lose a lot of map control, and that's not good. However, this doesn't mean that you should never 5-man rush sites. If you are constantly playing slow and waiting for the enemy to make a mistake and push, the enemy will obviously like adapt, and they would stop pushing and they would play slow. And in that sense, they probably won't instantly rotate, because you could if you're constantly rotating and faking, then the enemy will stop over rotating. And then you could throw a 5-man on B, for example, and the enemy won't automatically rotate from A, because there's always a chance that you might fake the site. So the next thing I would want to talk about is buying weapons and when you should buy well guns. Right now in the meta, it's the Frenzy for a pistol round is really good. And I definitely think that if you don't use it, you should try it out, because it is very good, and it's automatic, and it doesn't require much skill to use, and I think it's very good. You can get a lot of kills with it. I also think the Classic is a very viable option, especially on characters that are like mobile, that like Jets and Rays, because you could right click and be accurate even in the air, and you could just jump, right click. You could combine with like certain characters like Jets and just be very mobile with it and open up space and clear a site with a Classic, because you're very accurate while moving. For the second round of the game, if you win, I think it's always good to either buy a Spectre or Stinger with armor, because you are basically, if your entire team buys on the second round and you have a Spectres and they only have Classics, it's a free win, and you get another round on the board. And you also you could save the weapons until next round, so you don't even have to buy next round. So even if you lose round 3, you still have money to buy full weapons on round 4. However, if you lose pistol round, for round 2, I think it's better to just save your weapons and just go for a full buy on round 3, which is like a Phantom Vandal. And if you're Jets, maybe you could try saving for an Operator. And I think ops are very good on defense, and they should definitely be used, especially with characters like Jet, Omen, Raze, that could get on elevation, get away. But however, on attack, the operator isn't that good, and you should only use it if you're really confident with it. So another big topic is post planting, and you always, if you're attackers, you should always have this in mind, because even if you aren't having the best day, or if you're just not if you're not playing mechanically well, then if you have good post plant situations, and if you get in good positions, then you could win the round even if you're worse than the enemy team. So specifically on this map, this would be a bad spot to plant, because if you plant in this spot, then you really can't defend it. You can only see the bomb from like 2 spots, from here and from here. But if you plant it in the open, like right here, you could actually watch it from a lot of angles, and you can watch it from really far back. So a good post plant angle is an angle that is far away, but you could also see the bomb. So right here, this is a very good post plant angle, because once you hear the defuse going off, you could quickly peek and see if they're defusing. If they are not defusing, then you could just you don't even have to peek again. You could just wait for the tap again. But if they are sticking to defuse, you could try to quickly kill them. And you just have a lot more options if the bomb is planted in the open and you play farther back. You could quickly peek it, make them try to shoot. If you want, you could even not even expose yourself and just shoot like this. You could shoot for half a second, and they will probably get off the bomb. And in that case, you could literally just keep sitting back, and if you don't peek, then there's really not much you could do, because if they get off the bomb after you do a jiggle, then they're in a very bad spot, and as time ticks and goes on, you have a higher chance of winning. So it's very important to not push the enemy and not play in very exposed angles. If you could try getting on elevation if you're like a Jet, and this is a good spot to get a pick, and then you could fall back into a more safe spot where you aren't exposed to the enemy. So I think that playing time and trying to allow as much time to run as possible is the best way to win. So the next thing I would like to talk about is communications, and I think good communications can help make a decent team into a really good team. And a lot of people are making the wrong comms, and the easiest thing to remember, and what I do, is to always remember to call the agent that they're playing and the number of people. So if you just like say you see people, you're just gonna say they're showers. Say one jet showers or something, or 2 showers. You just call their agents too, because if you know the agents and you know where they are on the map, it'll be easier to figure out where everybody is. Like race triple instead of just 1 triple. That's like, or if it's like a lot of people, just say 4 pushing, 4 sites. It's just like more specific, and even those like little things really help out to the team. So a lot of people also ask about teammates and having bad teammates, and that they can't climb out of their rank because they have really bad teammates and there's nothing they could do. To some extent that is possible, and that can be true. But if you are stuck in a rank for more than a week, then you can't really blame your teammates, because there's definitely something that you're doing wrong. But in the case that you are really carrying your team and you have really bad teammates, being toxic to them is the worst thing you could do, and you never want to be toxic to them. You always want to encourage them and say like, nice try. Even such a simple thing as saying nice try could go a long way, and they're less likely to mute you, and you guys are more likely to win the game overall. So there's really no point of being toxic, because you're only hurting yourself. Also, to add on to that point, I think that kills aren't everything, and you could contribute a lot to a team without actually having a lot of kills. Like a Sentinel or a Cypher could sit back and hold and anchor a bomb site without even getting a single kill, but the enemy doesn't want to push that Cypher, so you guys are getting a huge benefit despite the Cypher not getting any kills that round at all.
Wait, I'm cheating.
And also kills, even kills specifically, they're not all worth the same amount. The first kill of the round is probably the most important kill, other than maybe like a clutch or something. But I'd say the first kill of the round is probably one of the most important kills. So getting those first bloods is very important for your team, and those kills matter a lot more than some random kill that you got after the bomb was planted. Also, I'd like to mention that you shouldn't be too result oriented, and that if you had a bad game or if you just didn't do good overall, you shouldn't like really give up and be down on yourself. Your goal is to improve over the next act or hits a certain rank. So this one game in specific doesn't really affect that much. Your goal should be to improve instead of to win this specific game. And it's also worth noting that just because a play worked doesn't mean it's good. If you ran into the open and you just got like 3 kills like this, doesn't mean that you did the right thing, and vice versa. If you did a play that, let's say, has 90% chance of working and a 10% chance of not working, if you lose, and if the enemy does a 10% thing that makes you lose, that doesn't mean it was a bad play. Also, you should be healthy in real life and like try to get good sleep and have a good diet, because that really goes a long way and gives you're more likely to react better in game, and you will just feel better and you will play better. If you would like to support the channel, like and a subscribe would be greatly appreciated. I spent a lot of time on these videos, and I would really appreciate a like, subscribe, and it would really mean the world to me. So something that takes a second of your time. It's free, and you could always change your mind later. So I'd really appreciate it.
That was a flick, dog.
That's what I would like to end this video off on. If you guys have any specific questions about any specific topics that I mentioned, you could leave it in the comments, and maybe I'll make a specific video dedicated to it. But I hope you guys learned something, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.